What's up, beautiful people? Welcome back to the Tears Take. I am so excited to recap The Real Housewives of Salt Lake City, Season 6, Episode 7. It's called Above Deck and Below the Belt. Listen, Salt Lake City continues to deliver. I'm here for it all. One would think that I would be tired of Lisa Barlow still crashing out. I'm not. I want more. I'm here for it. Let's go ahead and dive in. Before I do, if you're new, welcome. I recap Real Housewives episodes every week, and I just want to give my commentary. I want to interact with you. So if you have some thoughts, agreements, disagreements, what have you, let me know in the comments. I am happy to engage, and let's just have some fun and grow the channel. So please feel free to, like I said, comment. Please like and subscribe if you're rocking with the content. And I look forward to just talking about these crazy batches with you. Because the episode primarily takes place on a yacht, the episode opens with this really dramatic at sea intro, right? And listen, I love Salt Lake's editors and the post-production that they do, but it's starting to get a little bit too heavy-handed, I think. Let me know below if you're here for it or if you're starting to feel okay, y'all are jumping the shark. I feel like we are climbing on the shark and we are preparing to just jump over it. But anyway, so they had this dramatic at sea intro, and then we see the ladies arrive to the airport to get ready for Heather's yacht trip. Listen, I'm here for the yacht trips, but it's funny that we've had Miami on a yacht. Now we have Potomac on the yacht this year. Now we have SLC. Do all the producers, I know the producers work on multiple franchises. So do they just, we tend to see these themes, right, across franchises. And is it just a big producer meeting? Okay, so this year we're going to do things on yachts. And is that the direction of whenever they film these seasons? I don't know, but I'm here for it. So we see the ladies arrive to Canawan, and the crew already looks overwhelmed. I think there's just what is happening? I'm not going to talk a ton about the crew. I realized that it was a crossover with Below Deck. I don't watch that show. I feel I know it's really popular, and I heard it's good. But I feel Real Housewives is already such a is already such a commitment. I just can't, that plus other things that I watch, other things that I do. I just can't even bring on another Bravo show right now. In my world, not even just talking about YouTube. I'm just talking about in life in general. So I don't have a lot of commentary about the crew. I don't know who they are. I don't care. I'm sorry. But, as a couple things come up, I'll mention it, but it's not going to be a whole back and forth between Housewives and Below Deck because I don't know them. Anyway, so they already look overwhelmed though. And they have some drinks ready, and here goes Lisa. Okay, well, I'll drink this, but then I want Vita. I'm all right, girl. So Britani is swooning over these men. I was girl, what about Jared? But they asked her about Jared, and she said that she's starting her 30-day cleanse from him all over again because we already know she only lasted a day after she agreed with Whitney that she wasn't going to talk to him. And then I think she tried again, but he came over while she was packing for this trip and probably gave her a nice little send-off gift. So now, starting now, she's going to do the 30-day cleanse from Jared again. We'll see how it goes. Whitney says that they're going to throw water on her whenever she talks about Jared. And Meredith agrees, and she's I love this idea. And Meredith in her confessional looked very pretty in her silver and her hair up. I said, yes. And she was yeah, that's the first time I agreed with Whitney. So they're here to just keep her on track and not go not to spiral about Jared. So I forgot to mention that while they were at the airport, they actually got a text from Bronwyn that she's not going to be on their flight and she's going to meet them there. So while they're on the boat, we see Bronwyn arriving by speedboat. So we see her arrive via speedboat to catch up with them. And Lisa's already kind of talking about already talking about some of the stories that are already out there. In her confessional, Lisa says, like, listen, like, me and Bronwyn are good right now, but it's just weird that she was even coming at me knowing that she has such icky skeletons in her closet. And I was like, that's true. Like, before you start spraying somebody else, make sure you're not living in a glass house, right? So Meredith and Lisa talk about like whether Bronwyn is going to address these allegations and stories that are out about her. And Lisa says, she's probably going to say an iteration of the truth. Then we see Brittany actually asking Bronwyn straight up, like, hey, what about the things that are going on? And she's asking her directly one-on-one. And Bronwyn says that she believes that someone in the group is responsible for planning these stories about her. The whole time that she's talking, Brittany's looking at her kind of like, whatever you say, girl. Like, she looks very suspicious. Like, she doesn't look like she's buying anything Bronwyn is saying at all. Another past case that she was involved in, but it was sealed except for the penal code. And that penal code has a whole list of different crimes under it. And so that's where apparently there's like a changing story of like, it's grand theft. No, it's identity theft. No, it's this, that. And she kind of just talks about how like, well, no one even reached out to me. She starts ranting about like how no one reached out to her except for Mary. And, Todd, this is like really affecting Todd and his serious job and blah, blah, blah. I'm just like, girl, sit down. Like, y'all are there's no excuses right now when you come on this show. When you come on this show, we're going to be going through your social media to see if you're racist. We're going to be going through, not we, because I don't really do this, but we as a fandom, we're going to poke holes in what you have and what you do and what people say about you who may have worked with you. We're going to, have your marriage under a microscope and magnifying glass and see the dynamics there. And, we're going to pull up any public records of what you may have done in the past. So yeah, there's no excuse. Okay, Bronwyn, this is season 6 of the show. And, there's been 20 plus years of reality TV that I'm sure you have consumed at some point to understand that these stories just don't come out of thin air. And if you come on this show, there is a very strong possibility, especially a Bravo show with our crazy fandom, that some of these things are going to come out. So don't act surprised and it's affecting my husband, it's affecting my kid. And like, yeah, you should have thought about that before you came on reality TV. So like, somebody in the crew was unpacking for someone, and there was like a giant cucumber, and it was very odd. It was, first of all, it like wasn't covered. I don't know what the purpose of that was. I don't really want to know, because my first thought wasn't PG. So the cucumber makes an appearance later on. So ladies sit down to eat and they question Bronwyn, and she clears up about the 20-year eviction. She says, what they think are recent charges were really from an old sealed case, and it wasn't a case against her. It was a case about someone else that she cooperated on. Said there's no mugshot, there's no police report, there's nothing against her. It was something that she cooperated on. And I'm like, well, cooperated could mean a couple of things, and cooperated could mean that maybe you were implicated and took, some sort of plea deal or got some sort of immunity. I don't know. It didn't. Like, if you are a lawyer, please comment below of like what that could mean. But to me, it doesn't seem like, oh, she's completely exonerated, she did nothing. Like, the words cooperate means you had some sort of insight into what was going on. She didn't say I testified. She didn't say I, was subpoenaed and and if you're subpoenaed, it wouldn't show your name. I don't know, whatever. I'm not a lawyer, so I don't want to like go into all those details, but the word choice was interesting. She said cooperated. And to me, that made me think, okay, if you had not cooperated, you could have had the mugshot and the police report and the arrest, and you could have gone down a more punitive path. But you may have taught, maybe you were with Todd at the time, or maybe you had a great family lawyer and somebody talked you into cooperating so that these things can go away and the charges can be sealed against whoever you turned your back on to cooperate with the police with. That's what I'm getting. Let me know below what you got out of that, but that's what made me say, that doesn't, it didn't clear things up for me in a favorable way for Bronwyn, right? So as she was saying that story that, I have no mugshot, I have nothing, and I didn't do anything, someone asked her, well, why are you so upset then? Like, what's the big deal? And she said, it's because her and Todd are concerned that someone had dug up these stories on her that are in the group. And immediately Lisa jumps in and she says, oh, I don't think anyone would do that. No one here would do that. And it's crickets because everyone at the table is like, girl, we think you would do that. So it was funny. It was like a really funny, awkward silence. And then Bronwyn says, weird stuff just keeps coming up. So then Lisa immediately cuts her off and says that she doesn't think it's weird that Bronwyn, dug stuff up on Lisa. And, Bronwyn kind of like brought up these things after they had a falling out and maybe it was retaliation. And as she's like saying these things, like Britani is like next to Lisa. She's like, yeah, like 4 lawsuits. I was cracking up. I'm like, Britani, what is wrong with you? She's a mess. So Heather has a confessional and she says, like, Lisa's basically like telling on herself, right? Because she comes from a very defensive place when no one has accused her of anything, right? So Lisa's like, Lisa says like not to turn things on her because then she's going to get pissed off. And I'm like, girl, no one said anything about you. No one accused you of anything. I was like, a hit dog will holler, because Bronwyn simply said, we're concerned that someone in the group may have done this. And then Lisa had all the theatrics of like, don't turn this on me. Don't turn this on me. And it was like, no one said your name, Lisa. So Heather asked Bronwyn who they think it is. And Bronwyn says, these things started after Amy's party. So that was after Bronwyn ate up Lisa Barlow, chewed her up, spit her out, and read her down. And she said these things started happening after Amy's party. They intensified. And then it kept going, even though I resolved things with Lisa. And then Lisa just like has another outburst and she's like, I want to go swimming. And she's just trying to like shut down the conversation and divert. And Whitney says what I'm thinking in the confessional. She's like, girl, no one accused you, talking about Lisa. Like, no one said your name. And so the ladies eventually disperse and some are swimming and Mary's luxuriating, and Britani talks to Heather and she was like, oh, like I didn't like you canoodling with Jason. Jason's the captain that Heather coordinated this trip with because she had known him from before. And earlier when Britani was just like, oh my God, these men, Jason was one of the men that she thought was really attractive and could get her mind off of Jared. And so Heather was like, oh girl, like don't worry about me. Like pretty much like, yeah, we effed around before, but there's nothing there. I don't want him. Like, yeah, feel free. Like do what you want. And Britani in the moment was like, wait, what? And I don't think Heather caught that. And then in confessional, they asked Heather about it. And Heather was like, wait, did I say that? Wait, are you sure? Are you what? And I'm like, how do you not remember that? How do you not remember that? So anyway, she doesn't seem to remember that she said that to Britani. But if you did, like, good job, Heather, because he's cute. So I'm here for that. So, then we just see like the ladies just having fun and relaxing. And it's a mess because someone brings out like some swan floaties. Lisa keeps calling it a duck. Britani is like drifting off into sea. And we have Angie throwing up. It's a mess, but it's a beautiful mess. And so So then a little later, we see Brittany just trying to flirt with one of the staff, and he's like, "Oh, what do you do?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm a real estate developer." I was like, "Are you? I thought you were an agent." But then she says, "I build and I sell, and I build and I sell," and he's like, "Okay," and she like kept repeating it, and I was like, "Was that editing or was that Brittany being weird?" Because like either could be true. And then so while she's doing that, we see Bronwyn and Whitney talking about Brittany, and they're basically clowning the stuffed animal that Brittany has. It's like this stuffed unicorn, and then if you press the button, it's Jared's voice, and he's like, "You are loved." And good night. Like, it was really creepy. So they're just like clowning her about that. And Whitney and Bronwyn start talking about, Lisa leaking things to blogs and the press and things like that. And Bronwyn says, the person who was trolling me on Twitter kept calling me Conwyn, and that's what Lisa called me at Amy's house before any of this stuff became public. And then I was like, oh, shoot, she has a smoking gun. But, child, they do the flashback, and Lisa was calling her Fraudwyn. Both are very good names. And so then we see that Whitney talks to Heather, and she's pointing out a pattern that every time Lisa is mad at somebody, something comes up about them. And I was like, thank you, because I thought I was the only one seeing this. And so she starts going down the list, and Whitney says, it happened to me, it happened to Mary, it happened to Meredith, it happened to Bronwyn, it happened to Angie. And I said, girl, don't forget Jen Shah, because when Jen Shah cussed her out at the Fresh Wolf preparation event, child, she got arrested like the next day. Obviously, Jen, was doing the crimes, but I feel like Lisa dropped the pin as soon as Jen showed up. She said, "Yeah, Fez, she here. Come get her." So y'all can't convince me otherwise. It was not Meredith. It was definitely Lisa and her fake tears. Classic episode, by the way. So then Heather says that Lisa is a lot darker and a lot smarter than any of them can imagine. And she has seen, with her own eyes, a few examples. She saw Lisa, basically telling Bronwyn that she had went behind her back and talked to her jeweler to confirm like what she did and did not buy. We saw that on the reunion last year. And then we get a flashback of Heather seeing Lisa talked to socialite Amy, like, oh, so you used to live near Bronwyn? Oh, so what do you know? Oh, did people like Todd? She has seen her question other people and trying to get, collect little pieces of info so that she can kind of store that in her arsenal. And then Heather says when Angie shared that Lisa had given her information about Meredith to bring up, that just sealed the deal. She was just like, okay, like, yeah, all these things that are happening now point to Lisa, because literally the only one in the group who operates like that is Lisa. So they said, maybe we should call Meredith in, and maybe she can kind of like help us kind of like massage this delivery that when we go to talk to Lisa. And so Whitney's like, okay, I'll go get her. And she like does this like backflip off the bed. I was like, it just reminded me of my 6-year-old. I was like, all right, Whitney. So she does her backflip, and she gets Meredith, and then Meredith comes back. And, they just point out like the pattern of, when Lisa has a problem with someone, all of a sudden there are these, accusations, through the blogs and things like that. And basically Meredith in the scene says like, I hear what you're saying, but correlation does not equal causation. And we're just going to have to like hear Lisa out. So the girls are getting ready for dinner. Angie is like just dying. She just seems so miserable. She's still so sick. They go to dinner, but Angie and Mary do not join. They just, like I said, Angie's sick. Mary's going to hang out with her. Heather says that she feels bad because they're going to be missing Angie and Mary's commentary. And then Brittany says, well, I'm not going to miss Mary's commentary. And Heather is like, come on. Like, rule number 1 is like, you got to talk your ish in front of the person. And Brittany's like, oh, I do, I do. And then Bronwyn like automatically like chirps up and was like, oh no, Brittany, like you say things about people at this table that you haven't confronted them with. Like, yeah, like, and they're like, wait, what? And she's like, yeah, you said that Lisa big sisters you and you don't like it and you don't need it. And you said that Meredith pretends to have seizures and she goes from 0 to 100 all the time. And like, those are the things that you say about them. So you need to say it to their face. And it was just like, well, dang. And like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. I was kind of like, listen, where was that smoke that you had for Brittany, a friend of? Where's that smoke for Lisa? Because when it kind of was an appropriate opportunity for you to confront Lisa on like whether or not she said these things to the press, you didn't say it. You were kind of dancing around it so that we can put two and two together that it was likely Lisa, but you didn't directly say that I think it's you, Lisa, or Lisa, let me ask you directly, did you do this? Oh, I thought it was you because here are my examples of why I thought it was you. You failed to do that, but like poor Brittany, says one little thing to you because we saw a flashback of like Brittany saying it. They were like at a store trying on clothes. So it's like she thinks that she's in a safe spot with you and she thinks she has a moment just to kind of give some honest commentary. And honestly, it wasn't that bad. Just for you to like throw her under the bus again. You did the same thing last year when you were saying like, oh yeah, we're friends now. And then Brittany, said something about Angie and 5 minutes later you're bringing it up to Angie. So I don't know. I didn't think it was that funny. And I feel like you're just doing a little too much trying to keep your spot. But it's like, you don't need to have an AK-47 for the friend of when there are other people who are actually full-time members of the cast that you can like direct that energy to. But anyway, so she like throws her under the bus and Brittany was saying that Meredith pretends to have seizures. She was basically saying that she goes from 0 to 100. And like I said before, Meredith is always bobbing that head and yelling, and it's very like quick. And so I think that's what she meant by that. But when Bronwyn said it, she didn't give like enough context, I don't think. So of course Meredith was like taking it on face value, and she's like, I never pretended to have a seizure, and people that deal with seizures go through a lot, and I would know because my child had to deal with it. And so it's like you already see it coming, and like Brittany's like, this is what I'm talking about. And like Brittany tries to say something and she's like, I don't want to hear from you. And Brittany's like, this is what I'm talking about. Like, you just fly off the handle. And so in confessional, Brittany's like, I'm so tired of Meredith treating me like crap. And no one bats an eye at it. This group treats her outbursts like they're normal, like they're not. I'm the one that's going to speak up on it. I'm the one that's going to call her out, and she doesn't like it. I'm like, listen, Meredith has some reasons to just not like you and to be annoyed with you. It's not that you call her out. It's not that you're some force to go up against. Like, I would chill on that, Brittany, but whatever makes you sleep through the night. In Meredith's like seizure, she throws water at Brittany, but she did put it in her lap. She didn't get it on her face. And then Brittany's like, oh my God, are you serious? And then she throws water, but then Meredith like pushes the water out and didn't even touch her. I said, okay, Meredith. So then Brittany tells Meredith to disengage. I said, okay, fan, come on. That's season 1, season 2. Yes. And then it cuts to the crew finding a cucumber in the bathroom. And I'm like, what the f- is this? And like, it was a woman and a man, and the man was like, oh, well, maybe they cut it up to put like under their eyes, like a spa. And the woman was like, yeah, okay. She was like, yeah, they probably do something else with that cucumber. It was weird. I don't know. But I'm starting to feel uncomfortable with the cucumber. After things calm down with Brittany and Meredith, Heather's like, okay, so what other mess can we get into? She didn't say that, but what she says is, oh, who else needs to own something? And Whitney says to Lisa, like, and Meredith, like, oh yeah, you guys need to own something. And Whitney's like, yeah, Meredith, like, why don't you tell Lisa what we talked about? And Meredith was like, in her head, she's like, girl, don't throw me under the bus. Like, I joined this conversation late. So Meredith turns it back on Whitney and Heather and was like, yeah, why don't you tell Lisa what you guys were talking about? And they were like, well, you were there too. And she's like, yeah, I was there, but like, I didn't really say much, like, And so So then like Heather in confessional was like, oh, I feel so like I'm like left out to dry by Meredith. And I was like, did Meredith agree to approach Lisa with you? You had it in your head that you wanted Meredith there to help kind of massage things and make things not as combative for Lisa. But didn't Meredith know that? You guys threw kind of like, you try to throw her under the bus of like, well, she was there, we talked about it, and acting like Meredith was, running the show, and she wasn't. It's very similar to season 3 when Whitney was trying to say that Heather heard a rumor about Lisa Barlow's marriage, and she's like, Heather, you were there, you were there. No, if you care that much, stop trying to like throw everyone else into your mess. Stand on it and deal with whatever you wanted to deal with head on, but like be strong enough to handle it yourself and stop trying to grasp for a teammate to like share and shoulder some of the blame with. And that's what they were trying to do with Meredith. And I'm so glad Meredith caught it and was like, oh, yeah, tell them what you said. Like, no, it wasn't Meredith. You guys were talking about it. And then you said, oh, let's bring in Meredith. And then at the table, you're like, oh, yeah, Meredith, tell her. No, that's not how it works. So Heather pretty much tells Lisa that she believes that she's the source of, digging up dirt on people. And of course, Lisa flips out, saying people just tell her things everywhere she goes. She's not digging. She's not, putting things out there. People just tell her things and she knows things. And it just goes back and forth for a while. Lisa screaming to Heather, F you, F you. You guys are lucky I even talked to you guys after all the things that you said about me and do to me. And Lisa says that she can't be friends with Heather if she believes this. And she, like the poor crew, they're trying to serve dessert and they're just like ripping each other's heads off. And they're like, someone needs to do a compilation of like staff trying to like take these women's orders, trying to put their food down. Like they looked terrified. Then at one point, the chef comes out to talk with them and he can't even get a word in. He walks away and he's like, F this. And so Lisa walks away to call John and Heather follows her a bit, but like Lisa is just paying her dust. And so Lisa's like, well, fine. And so then Heather gets upset and she walks away. Lisa's crying. She cries a lot without tears, y'all, but she's crying on the phone with John, you don't believe what they said. And so she's calling John. And then Heather goes to Angie and Mary's room and she's upset and she's crying and she kind of fills them in on what happened. And then she goes to look for Lisa, who's just like sitting out on like the pier, it looks like, or on the deck on the phone with John. And so she goes to like look for her, to talk to her, and then that's the end. But next week, it looks like the craziness is going to continue. It looks like someone brings up Seth's indiscretions. Angie comes back to life and she's up for another round to throw Lisa under the bus. So it's going to be good, I'm sure. I'm excited. But let me know your thoughts on this episode. What do you think? Do you think Lisa is the one? Like, is it too obvious at this point? Or is there like another snake in the group? Are you tired of Lisa crashing out, or are you still entertained by it like me? I don't know. Let me know your thoughts and I will comment back. If you made it this far, please give the video a like. Please subscribe if you feel so inclined. I would love to have you. And I just appreciate you watching. So I'll catch you in the next video. Mwah! Bye.